Joel. Actually, challenges facing young adults. I did look at these slides. So I came here and I was a bit, what am I going to talk about? Challenges facing young adults. Actually, it was more ROI, ROV. So I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'm glad that that's what you were expecting to hear. Maybe the people who did the PowerPoint thought it was a bit funny that I would face a lot of challenges tonight, with facing young adults. So there you have it. Okay, but thank you very much for having me speak with all of you today. And I'd like to actually refer to a talk that I gave at the Judge Business School at Cambridge University just a couple of weeks ago when we were there. And it was on return on values. And it's, in a business sense, it's a play on the return on investment versus return on value, right? When you make value from the investment. But I called it return on values purely because besides it being business and about work and the values, I also want to talk about the return to values itself, the actual values, and how that can also give you ROI. So that was my talk at the Judge Business School, and in fact tonight that we are at Wisma Maran is a perfect example, knowing the person behind Wisma Maran, Mr. Ng himself. He epitomizes this return on value, return on values, because he's one person. I remember he said something to me, he said a lot of things to me, but the one thing that he one day just said it very off the cuff and in a very thoughtful way was, he says, what's the point of making all this money if I'm not able to return something? And hence you can see this wonderful space on a very prominent floor which is dedicated to the Lord. And so his way of giving back. And not only is it used for church services, but it's also used for an event like this, a gathering like this, for our young people who are starting up on business or who are working, etc. Right? So let's get on with our talk, shall we? So I'm glad that Emmanuel is helping out with the slides. So I shall move on. So the modern world presents a paradox of choices and a rapid pace of change, leaving many people grappling with questions about purpose, success, and identity. It's not uncommon for individuals to feel overwhelmed by life's decisions that they need to make, compounded by the speed of technological and societal shifts, leading to the pressure to constantly reinvent and project themselves. Fields which were once stable and well-defined, and I know we talked about it at dinner, now require constant upskilling and flexibility. And the workplace itself is evolving with new models of employment, collaboration, and even leadership. My own eldest daughter, because I was saying that we were talking about it at the dinner table, you would have thought that in those days we thought art was very, very safe, right? Because it's creative, who can copy? It's so difficult to copy Van Gogh or something like that. But then she is facing tremendous problems. She's saying, Mommy, this is AI, Mommy, that is AI. With Mid-Journey, with Night Cafe, Adobe Firefly, and all that, and AI just has taken over the art world. And so she, of all people, must reskill and upskill. Otherwise, she will have to depend on my husband and me to feed her forever. So to keep up and stay relevant, one needs to upskill as well as continue to learn. And thank goodness nowadays there's such a thing called lifelong learning, which has evolved from the days of correspondence courses. So today, on top of distance learning and part-time classes, some of the current trends include what is called micro-credentials. And I'm very excited about this, and short courses to accreditation of experiential it's called APAL, Accreditation of Prior Experiential Learning. This is something that I'm very excited about because in my 6 years of, I call it national duty or national service to the government, where I was on the council of the Malaysian Qualifications Agency. So this was something that was developed during that time, where your prior experiential learning, that means you may not have a degree, or for whatever reasons you did not go on for education, or you were not ready. But now, because of the experience that you have amassed from your work, that can actually be turned into a stepping stone for you for higher degrees, or even for qualifications themselves. So that is APEL. So you have all these nowadays, and it's specifically for people who want to continue to reskill, to upskill, or to convert what they have and to help them move on to the next thing. So many universities actually have a center for this continuing education, and of course at Sunway itself, even parents who have been supporting the children, now you can come and join them while they are there, and because we will have a Department of Professional and Continuing Education, so it's never too late to study, to upskill, or to sign up for a degree course. But let me get back to my talk. So alongside the pressures of career progression, business accomplishments, and economic stability, is the growing desire for meaning of one's work. Does what we do align with our values, passions, and long-term vision of, I suppose, fulfillment? So in a world marked by economic inequality, we know about that, environmental degradation, and political instability that we see all over, actually finding a meaningful professional path can sometimes seem elusive. There is also the challenge of balancing your personal ambition with contentment. And I know that especially with younger people, this is what I really want to do. I'm not really satisfied. It's not really giving me, contentment. So in pursuit of professional success, it is easy to become absorbed by external achievements, status, wealth, accolades, Instagram likes, viral content, for example, only to find that true fulfillment actually lies somewhere else. For example, in relationships, personal well-being, your health, or just a sense of contributing to a greater good. Financial struggles, mental and emotional fatigue, feeling lost in time, and the need for seeking a deeper connection with God are some of these challenges a lot, if not most people, actually face. So addressing all of you here today, please allow me the opportunity to share some insights on aligning purpose in facing challenges in life. Right? So especially since I know that I've been trying to read up on Josh Jen, okay, but I'm not sure whether it's the same Josh Jen as the one that is the worldwide movement, right? Because what I read, Josh Jen youths are actually people of purpose, which I thought was very good. So let's talk first, talk about finding the true north. I urge you all to dig deep and discover what I call your true north. This true north that I'm referring to is not the one on a compass necessarily. I'm actually referring to our personal true north, which is an inner calling which serves as our guide on the path of being our genuine selves. Professor Bill George came up with the expression, discover your true north, and he actually authored a book, if you like to read, with exactly the same title. And uncovering the true north means aligning your internal compass within yourself by combining your purpose and your beliefs. So as humans, we often make mistakes, we err, and there will be times when we may temporarily lose sight of our own values. And during these times, we have to rely on our internal compasses, which, if pointed towards our true north, we will have no problems staying on course. So, what is this true north? As Christians, we find it very easy to find our own true north. Because in the Bible, it has been noted that the Gospel of Mark is like a compass. And it always points to our true north, and that is Jesus Christ. And Andy Foreman, who is the president of the Jesus Christ Compass Ministries, incidentally, contends that a compass does not even accurately point to the real north. Okay? Magnetic north, as you those are the slides you remember, right? And so it's more dependable to actually locate the North Star, which is always over the true north. And the North Star leads to true north just as the star led the wise men to Jesus, which is the only true way. And as we know what Jesus said in John's Gospel 14 verse 6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So Jesus Christ, our true north. Actually, our true north must be anchored by our core values, which serves as a foundation for the way we live our lives, conduct business, and interact with also each others. These core values are deeply ingrained, and they will often influence our priorities and also our ethical standards. When you know your true north, some people say that it is like a conscience, Well, to us, it's also your God-given purpose. You will not be swayed by every trend, challenge, or opinion, because it keeps you centered and very focused. So, next, let us talk about core values. Remember, return on values. So what are core values? They are personal ethics or ideals which guide us when making decisions, building relationships, and solving problems. And there are many core values. Can you name some?
Kindness.
Yes, very good. Kindness. Yeah. Integrity, respect, truth, responsibility, some even say compassion, right? And many, many more. So each and every one may have a set of different core values. And if you do have them, it's good, because as long as you have them to guide you, that is a good thing. As for me, I would like to share a real-life case study that I know well, namely that of the Sunway Group that I have been with 34 years. And at Sunway, our core values are integrity, humility, and excellence. And every Sunwayan, as we are called, must embrace these, otherwise we get out of the way. And they have to be in this particular order. Allow me to quickly go through them one by one. Integrity. Integrity is to uphold the highest standards of integrity in all our endeavors. The reputation of our entire organization is built on honesty, transparency, and trustworthiness, of which we must protect and nurture. So Rick Warren, the author of Purpose-Driven Life, has this to say about integrity. He says, integrity demands that every area of your life is treated with the same intensity. You have the same commitment to excellence in your marriage as you do in your career. You have the same commitment to excellence in ministry as you do in your parenting. So he provides 6 points on how One can be a person of integrity, but let me just highlight 3 of them because you can go read them out, okay? One is keeping your promises, okay? Keep your word. If you say you will do something, do it. Do not be like clouds, and I quote, like clouds and wind without rain is one boast of gifts never given. Does that sound familiar to you? That was from Proverbs 25. Okay? Second is doing your best at work. Always giving your best. As a believer, our real boss is God. Whether or not anybody else sees your work, God does. Okay? So, to quote, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Right? Colossians 3. So, and the third is being real with others. Don't try to be somebody else. Do not act one way in church and another at work and another way again on the tennis court and the fourth way on the roads when somebody has cut into your leg. Huh? Right? So, quotation, we refuse to wear masks and play games. We don't maneuver and manipulate behind the scenes. And we don't twist God's word to suit ourselves. Rather, we keep everything we do and say in the open. And that is in 2 Corinthians 4. I think we can all more or less accept this as an extremely good value, right? Integrity that for all of us to have guiding us, that we are people of integrity, people who can trust, and we also can trust ourselves. The second is humility. And humility basically is to remain humble in our achievements and our successes. Don't boast all the time. And in a world of constant change, we must be cognizant of that. Many have achieved thanks to positions of privilege. We didn't get there on our own. Okay? These people always sing this song, I did it my way. It's sort of nonsense, and nobody does it this way. There were many people who helped you, along the way. No way, And so many have benefited from inequalities that need correcting, but humility reminds us that there is always room to grow and improve in all that we do. That's why humility is important. Not to say, not just to be boastful, but it really makes you remember the people who helped you along the way to get you to where you are, and why you have to be grateful, and why you also hopefully will keep improving yourselves. So again, to quote Rick Warren, The Purpose-Driven Life, what on earth am I here for? He says, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. Humility is thinking more of others. Right? So in fact, this value resonates well with us Christians as Jesus reminds us over and over again to be humble like him, born in a manger, but God nevertheless. So the next is excellence. And basically, excellence is to push boundaries of what is possible and to set new standards of achievement, not only for the organization, but also for ourselves. And I just wanted to quote Colossians chapter 3 here, that whatever you do, do heartily as for the Lord and not for men. Okay? So, in fact, talking about all these values, I once said to our international school, I said, a lot of people think that international schools, because they're taught very much by people of the West, for example, that values are lacking. So, in fact, now if you were to go to some international schools, and you will see values emblazoned everywhere, along the corridors, on the walls and everything. And it was like an experiment that we did. And it's so interesting to see the little children actually changing. Because they read, they see, it's all around them. And they begin to assimilate it. And they talk about it. So kindness, compassion, passion and all that, they have to go out to show what it is all about. So you may be thinking, what does these 2 points, being finding your true north and having core values, got to do with facing life's challenges? How do they work together? Let me explain. Your true north gives you direction, where you're going and why. After all, it is a compass. And your core values give you stability. Okay? It's a firm foundation based on values which guides your actions and how you live along the way. So in other words, the true north and your core values are the where and the how. So together, these 2 things, they will help you make tough decisions with clarity and certainty. Remember Abraham and how it was a tough decision that he had to make to sacrifice his son, yet he trusted. He was very clear. So that decision was not hard. Thank goodness God stopped him before he did it, right? So, and the second thing that it can help you is it helps you to stay resilient in the face of pressure. No. These are my values. I will not pay under table money, for example. I'm very, very clear about it. So unwavering. You will remember the story of Esther. Immense pressure to save her people, and she had to go to the king, which is against the law, and she said, if I die, I die, but I have to do it. Okay? So then the third one is that it helps you align your life, work, and relationships with your faith. So in this, there are plenty of examples of Ruth and Naomi and how she aligned her life, her work, and her relationship with her mother-in-law Naomi. And of course, who can forget Paul? And when the scales dropped from his eyes, that was exactly what he did only, right? So now I would like to move on to making meaning. So next I would like to encourage you not to only think about your careers and getting a high-paying job and making lots of money, but I would like to persuade you to also think about making meaning. And what do I mean by that? For example, to be concerned about the state of the world that we are in and to feel personally responsible to make a difference. Allow me to share some bits on making meaning with what I call the ASPIRE formula. Alright? So A is acknowledge God. S to me is serve willingly. P, purposefully, and I intentionally pursue the life God has called us to live. R, healthy relationships, and E, equity. So let's start with A, for acknowledgement. In acknowledging God, we also acknowledge the various global challenges of this era, such as climate change, poverty, and greed. With this comes an awareness to act, namely that you can make a difference by innovating and finding solutions. S is for service to others. Legendary boxer Muhammad Ali. How many of you know him? Not bad, the young people also know. Okay, he once said, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. While Martin Luther King said, everyone can be great because everyone can serve. And I truly believe this too. There is no greater satisfaction than to serve, support, and help those around you. Try it. Our God asks that we serve willingly, and our Lord Jesus Christ is the perfect example of the servant leader. So P is for purpose and I is for intention. These come together, P and I, for us to purposefully and intentionally pursue the life God has called us to live. And as you seek your purpose in life, I urge you to do it with the right intentions. Be purposeful with your actions and always have good intentions. How do you do this? Okay, there is actually a simple framework, and it consists of 3 parts. One is integrated life. Ask, what consequences will my decisions make to other people and to the planet? So if I make this decision, what will happen? What are the consequences? Is it good for the planet? Is it good for the people? 2, motivations. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Okay, is it for myself? Actually, that's okay. You know, don't think that you have to be so selfless all the time. It's okay to do things for yourself. Or is it just to impress others? Maybe impress a potential girlfriend, I don't know. Well, then the question is, will it make me happy? And then, if you dare, will it make God happy? Okay? And the third one is team support. I see quite a fair bit of that happening here as you break up into your teams and then you have your mentors. So ask, who can I speak with? Do I have a good mentor? You were just asked to choose your mentors, so you guys are in good stead. Can we succeed together? Because it's about teamwork. Alright? And then R is for healthy relationships. Not just relationships, but healthy ones. Self-actualization is actually not an individual endeavor. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. In the longest study on human happiness by Harvard University, a study that has gone on for, guess how many years? It's the longest study. How many years did this study go on for? You say 50. 800 people die already. Close. Actually, it was 85. So I also wondered whether it was the same guy still. See, they probably have a whole team working on it, right? So it's gone on for 85 years. And do you know what they were studying? They were studying happiness, okay? So do you know what is the number one factor in happiness that they found out? After 85 years, sorry? Yes, it's relationships. Not money. No. Not fame. No. And not power. Okay? Relationships were the biggest determinants in longevity of life. So mentors, you want to live long time. The young ones also. Okay? So in longevity of life, quality of life, and also what I talked about, meaning. How many? Have you ever asked yourself what is the meaning of life? Yes, I know. I have asked it many times, and then I met Rick Warren. And believe you me, in the good and the bad times, having someone there means more than anything money can buy. Right? So we come to E, which is for equity. For this, do not worry too much about how much you earn at the start. Remember to look at the birds. They neither sow, reap, nor gather. And consider the lilies. They neither toil, spin, but God clothes them beautifully. Yes, I understand that it is important, especially as you build yourself, that you do have to worry about whether you make enough money, right? Don't get me wrong. Instead, I would really like you to look for good opportunities, good mentors as you have tonight, bosses, and good organizations which can help you go far. So when you look for that career, that job, look for these things. Equity here is more than just financials. It's not about money alone. It's the worth of the multifaceted values you can gain from the positive surroundings and environments. Your workplace, is it positive? What do you learn from it? What do you gain from it? If your boss is toxic, you should reconsider, right? You can build your wealth as you go through life actually by practicing good spending. Don't simply spend, right? And invest, and good investment habits. Remember, you can't take it to your grave. So, right? So don't chase money alone. I know it is easy to say, but having observed many of my students in their journeys, I do believe that this is true. And another way to think about this is, I hope you will be in a position to help others grow their wealth and achieve financial security. And that is the thinking that you should adopt. Collective wealth. Alright? So there you have it. Aspire. You see a picture of my chairman. So, aspire, acknowledgement, service, purpose and intention, relationships and equity. To be honest with you, this framework was inspired by my own chairman, whom you see there, Country Sir Jeffrey Chia. Not only is he a successful businessman, he is an inspiring philanthropist who has donated over 1 billion ringgit to education and societal causes. And he has a famous saying, which I love to share with you, which is, I aspire to inspire before I expire. If you want to borrow that phrase, please say it correctly. Because I have come across many people who will say, I expire. I say expire already, no one to buy with the rest of it. Alright? So it's quite a tongue twister. So, ladies and gentlemen, before I close, let me say this. I know that you're a generation of accomplishment. And in a world that is increasingly complex, chaotic, contradictory, defining one's professional trajectory and even faith in God can indeed be daunting. Yet it is also in this tension that one often finds depth, growth, and meaning. Embracing uncertainty, knowing that your only certainty is God Almighty and His Son Jesus, grounding oneself in values, seeking purpose beyond external achievements, and trusting in the Holy Spirit's prompting in your personal intuition and divine guidance can help navigate this very challenging journey. And as young Christian adults amongst most of us here, but I know that we have some pre-believers as well, the challenges that you face in balancing life, work and faith are very real, but they are not insurmountable. We are called to grow, to learn, and to become more Christ-like in everything that we do. God has a plan for each of us, and He equips us with everything we need to fulfill His purpose in our lives. So, approach your studies and your careers and faith with wisdom, discipline, and a heart fully surrendered to God's will. And with His help, you can navigate life's many challenges and come out stronger, wiser, and more equipped to impact the world around you. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to me, and God bless you all.
Let's give another round of applause. Okay, this is the part where you guys can join me. So I'm just going to go ahead and shoot with one question, but feel free to just raise your hands, introduce yourself, and ask the question. Yeah, thank you, Norman. So Norman will be passing around the mic so that you guys can go ahead and ask the question. So Prof. Elizabeth, so since we're talking a little bit about values, and you've shared those 3 values of basically Sunway Group, actually the first question is, do they align with your values?
Oh yes. In fact, they align very much with my values, which is why I have been with them for now 34 years. They are very simple values. I mean, integrity, it's something that, like I said, we can all subscribe to. The next is humility, right? And we have people who actually have problems with that, and literally we just say, if you can't, then maybe this is not the right place for you. You need to humble yourself. You need to say that you're still learning. For example, we do. We cannot face the students as if we know it all. We don't. And many times they're the ones teaching us, and then we learn together. And that is the important thing, because learning changes. That's why I said embrace change. Because as you move along, like I said, learning changes. We just set up a new school, and I said I can't put it under the university. Sure that. Why? Because this school, which is actually a coding school, has no teachers. The students learn from each other. It's a peer-to-peer learning. It's very revolutionary. And the university is kind of like looking over, is this for real? No lecturers or don't know whether they know what they're doing, and the students are worth anything. So I said, well, look at the people who are sponsoring this program. This school, they are the corporations, they are industry. So obviously they believe that these students are extremely capable when they finish to go and work for them, because they're all fighting for them. So humility. And then the third one, excellence. No excellence, how to be Sunway University, right? So that one is a given, excellence.
All right, thanks. Maybe as a follow-up for that, out of the 3 that you just highlighted, is there any that you personally struggle with, and how do you manage that? How do you navigate that?
Number 1, integrity. You would have thought that you should not struggle with it, but I dare say it's something that most people struggle with, because it's so easy to suddenly be tempted, right? And to make matters worse, but sometimes you need to get something done. Like I talked about the under-table money. It's so easy to just grease the way. And when you refuse, then I know such a steep slope you have to go up, especially when you feel that you can afford the so-called just call it bribery lah, for lack of a better word. So things like that. But it's wonderful how, because these values are put out there, so everyone knows. So temptation also is less. To take shortcuts, for example. We call it the slippery slope. Before you know it, you go on the slippery slope, you're slipped. So that would be one, I think, not just me, but most people will struggle with. I said me also because at the beginning, when we were trying to clean up the place, it was a contentious issue, purely because you end up having to deal with having to make change to people who did not fall into the integrity side. Then you have to manage them out. So that was extremely difficult.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for sharing. Now it's up to you guys. Are there any questions from the floor? Okay, yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, David wants to challenge me.
He wants the juicy stories.
Okay, he wants the juicy stories. Okay. When you work with people and you depend on them, they can, friendships get formed, right? And the people also learn to trust you, and you to an extent trust them as well. But then when you find out that there was something that was not right, that had happened, and you have to deal with it, and you have to tell the person concerned. Or for that person, bribery was a part of his or her dealing, and to get a commission, he saw as something that he had always enjoyed. So I would say, oh, we need to hire someone to mow the lawn. And so he hires someone to mow the grass outside, in the field. And then before you know it, the fella tells you that for every 1,200 that he takes home every month, 100 goes to the other guy. So things like that, So then you have to deal with it, literally. And dealing with it was not nice. And in fact, dealing with it, because it went overboard after a while, and we basically say, it's become too much a part of your daily life and what you do, and we can't have you here, and you need to, in his case, retire. Early retirement, where we thought was the time thing to allow him to exit graciously and to retire him off. But he didn't take it well at all. He felt betrayed because he thought that I was his friend, and there he is, of all people, I'm the one who told him at the end of the day, you gotta go. So it's basically that.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Oh. There's a question. Yes, please raise your hands. Just introduce yourself briefly and then ask your question.
I'm Kylie. Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. I just want to ask, do you have any personal testimony of how the Lord has helped you through any difficult situation in terms of business-wise, and it could be like God providing you a solution or financial provision?
Yes. Thank you for your question. In fact, following on from this particular experience that I have just told you about, my needing to let this person go, it turned very ugly, right? And he turned around and he threatened me. And he said, you understand Cantonese, most of you, maybe Joel doesn't. He says, you got your life, basically, and said, and I was a young mother, and I had very young children. I can't remember whether I was pregnant because I had 3 children quite in quick successions. And the HR director who knew about this insisted that I made a police report. He said, you must make a police report. And I said, it just didn't fit well with me making a police report, because that would mean that the police will come after him, and I feel that it would make a bigger thing there. It is, we're trying to be kind, to ask him to graciously leave, and then you send the police after him, and I don't really know whether he means it or he doesn't mean it, but HR felt that this was a threat, and I had to. So I was really fighting, and then I returned back to the Bible where it says, you're not even supposed to sue each other, let alone, go and make a police report on each other, that kind of thing. And he's supposedly also a fellow Christian, or so he said so. All right? Whether it was to impress me, I don't really know. I mean, I'm not the judge. God is the judge, right? So it just didn't sit well, and I kept saying no. And so the HR director said, no, we can't afford to have anything happen, especially you are a young mother, you have a baby and things like that. And so I said, right, will you allow me to think about this and to pray about this, and I will come back tomorrow to give you the answer. So HR director is also Christian. So I said, okay. But tomorrow morning, I'll be waiting for you to take you to the police station. So I went home that night, very disturbed, and I prayed. Usually, the next day, the answer will be there when I wake up. Somehow, God speaks to you when you're asleep, and the answer comes out. But somehow, that particular time, that night, it did not happen. So the next morning I wake up, I'm even more confused. I had no answer. And I said, oh God, why aren't you listening to, why aren't you answering me, you know? So as I was driving, and in those days I stayed in Sierra Mas, and from Sierra Mas to Sunway is quite a long way. So I was going through the traffic and going to going to work. And so when I arrived, some of you might be familiar with the road to the old Subang Airport. So this very long road, and then now there is Cheetah Mall and all that. So as I headed towards Sunway, or rather Subang, you know, there used to be this underpass that you have to go under. So everyone would queue up on this underpass. And I remember praying very fervently because I was getting close to the college, and I know he was waiting for me. So then I said, you know, Lord God, you know, please answer me. Do I make a police report or do I not? Because I cannot hear you clearly. So please speak to me. Don't use still small voice. I'm too disturbed. I cannot hear still small voice. Can you, you know, for example, I'm now so dense. Can you write it up on the clouds, right? The sky there. Yes or no. All right, make it easier. Y or N, okay? Or maybe make it easier, a tick or a cross, you know, something like that. So just write it on the skies for me to see. And then I looked up, you know, stupidly, expectantly, that the Lord had written up there. Then as I looked up, of course I wasn't looking where I was driving, right? This stupid car came right in front of me. At that point, that was how I feel. That's why I said what I said to you just now, you know, how you react on the road. Hiya! Mad one, rushed right in front of me like this, you know. I had to brake like that. Papa nearly crashed into that car. And then I saw it on his car windscreen at the back, emblazoned big, as I have told the Lord to do so, right across the windscreen. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and all your might. I tell you, I just burst out crying in joy. You know, the Lord is so real, so true. And I did ask him to tell me, be really bold about it, because I cannot see otherwise, you know. That was it. So of course, I forgave the guy in front of me, who had zoomed off. I don't even know what his car number plate was. I only remember what was on his car windscreen.
It was on his windscreen, like
yeah.
Bumper sticker. Wow. And he cut you off.
Yeah. He cut me off so that I could read it. That was exactly what he was doing. I looked up and actually he was right in front of me. So that will answer your question. So trust in the Lord, that means don't. No, don't do it. So it was very clear to me what the answer was. So I went, I was smiling, I was so happy. Go back, HR director waiting. Sure enough, the fellow was there waiting for me. I said, no, I'm not going to the police station. Are you sure? I said, I'm absolutely sure. Nothing will happen to me. And of course, nothing happened to me all these years.
Wow, isn't that a story? Would you like to hear more? Yeah. So go ahead and ask the question. Anybody wants to? Okay, David. Go ahead.
David.
Question: is your boss a Christian?
Not yet.
Okay, so question, right? So you as the leader of Sunway, so all these years we've been rising to the top. So how do you manage top where your boss is not a Christian, and your employees where most of them should probably not be a Christian? So how do you remain as a Christian, ushering God's, like as a Christian, like rise to the top, without compromising your values? That's the first question. The second question is more towards, was there a point of time where you have made a very unpopular decision, which your boss would disagree with you and people around you would disagree with you, but you just knew it's a godly decision? And how do you cope with that incident? Yeah, this is the question.
Okay. All right, the first question. I do not assume at any time that someone who's not a Christian will not have values. And in fact, I purposely brought up Jeffrey Chia, my big boss, to show you that he is a man of values. You know, he may not be a Christian, but he's a man of values. So values is something that I think all of us can have. And this true north that I'm talking about is also, like I said, to maybe a pre-believer, it would be like a conscience. You know, it's what your mother taught you, what your parents taught you, what you grew up with, you know, and you read books, etc. So, you know, there are basic values that people will subscribe to and ascribe to, you know. So at any one time, I have no problems working with non-believers, and in fact, in my office, my PA is Malay. You know, she's been my PA for a long time. My assistant has actually changed a fair bit. At one point, I had a Buddhist, followed by a Muslim, and now Dr. Paul is a Christian. You know, I will be honest with you to say that I did not choose them based on their religion. Yeah, I chose them based on their ability to do the work and their values. So values are very important to me. Obviously, if they are Christians, it may be an added benefit, right? So in answering that question, and but what has been wonderful is that in the university and in the campus, in the education group, we have quite a number of Christians in the workplace where we can come together and uphold each other in prayer, in worship, and you know, and setting up of prayer altars. And I dare say that we are where we are today because we have a lot of people praying for the university, for the college, for the campus, for the students, and for all the people inside, regardless of what religion each person is. Our greatest fear is evil which may come in to harm our people, and that's what we pray against. Yeah. And then I think your next question was...
So, was there a time where, so I'm sure throughout 24 years of your life, there'll come a point of time where you have to make a very unpopular decision, but you know it's a right decision. So how do you go through that? Like, despite a lot of, like, it's a very, let's say majority of people will not agree with you, but you just knew it's a right decision. And
okay. Okay, not so much the majority of the people. Majority of the people over the years don't really oppose. They actually fall in because they know that the decisions made are consultative, and they also know that the decisions made do involve them and are made in good faith that it is for everyone. So when you have the benefit of being in a company for 30 over years, where your people can see you inside out, you know, that happens. But to give you an example of what happened was very early in my career. So I was given this task of setting up the whole hostel management of our college, and having taken it over at a time when Sunway was not at that point more known to be Funway than what it is now. And then having students who would actually come out and challenge the fact that you want to put in some systems and you want to put in some rules and regulations. They actually will come and ask you, we heard that you want to put in rules and regulations. You know we don't have rules and regulations here. I said, that is the problem lah. But we are going to have rules and regulations, you know, that sort of thing. So when we first put in the rules and regulations, they were draconian. I dare say. Now I look back and like, oh, this one very draconian. And basically, if the boy is found in the girl's apartment, you know, some boys are very sable, just want to go in there and see the girls or something like that. But In those days, you must be, you're talking about 30 over years ago, it's a very different era, Your parents then, in those days, would not like the boys to be in the girls' apartment and the girls to be in the boys' apartment. So there was this draconian rule that if you cross the line, if you're found in the girls' apartment, you're gone. Okay. So of course there will be the gallant young man who has to go next door to carry the girl's bag or something like that, that at least that's the excuse, alright? And so there was an occasion when I had to tell a boy that unfortunately you cannot stay in the hostel anymore. You are hereby not expelled from university or college, don't get me wrong. There are two different things. Staying in the hostel and remaining in your studies is a different thing altogether. But you can't stay in the hostel anymore because you've broken this golden rule. You went next door and you went to the girls' apartment. Aiyah, crazy boy, what time of the night? Is it midnight some more? So it was like, no, I have to go. And actually, I'm not the one who's policing them. The guards are policing them. The hostel master is. And they already made that decision. So when it came up to me is to enforce it. So of course the appeals came all the way up to me, and I said, look, this one is very clear-cut rule. You cross the line, you are electrocuted. That's it, boy, you have to move . So this family very influential. This family also knows Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia very well. So I was called up. And the big boss asked me, so I heard that you, what was the word? I cannot remember. Evicted, eviction, it's not expulsion. That you evicted my son's friend, my friend's son. I said, what's his name? Yeah. There was one boy that we evicted recently. He was found in a girl's apartment, so we have no choice. We had to let him go. That one is my friend's son, I'm sorry. He had to go. And I'm very new in the job. I wasn't sure whether that was going to be the end of my it was a very short career at Sunway or not. He was quite annoyed. I could see that he was annoyed. He walked off. I said, die. So the next day, his PA calls me. I said, yes, sir. Hey, you evicted the boss's friend's son. I said, yes, I did. What to do? He did this, that. You cannot reinstate him back, man. Cannot. Eviction means eviction. Cannot. Do you have to gas up all his money? I said, what gas up all his money? People pay you don't know how many months in advance, and then all the deposits, this and that, blah, 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 blah. Can you take him back in 3 months' time? Cannot. 3 months is too soon. I'll work on the deposits to return him so that he's got enough money to look for a place elsewhere. We don't just throw them out. We actually try to look for another place for them, and make sure that they have another place to go live in. Because it's just that they happen to have, in the Bible it's the same thing. How David always breaks the rules and sins, so on, and God has to. Punishment is one thing, but it doesn't mean that we love them less. It doesn't mean we don't care. And it doesn't mean we don't forgive. But punishment is punishment. So one of those things. So that would be an example. Had to stand ground.
Wow, that's a real example. Okay, we're kind of running out of time, but let this be the final question before we break into our mentoring groups. Just pass the mic and briefly introduce yourself, although most people know you.
So, I'm glad to have the last question, right? So allow me to ask two at once. It's cheating, right? But allow me to do so. The first question, is there anything you wish to do, particularly in the workplace, if you are not a Christian? So here's the first question, and the second question is, non-Christians can have values. Can a Christian has no value?
Let's take the second question because it's the easiest. Non-Christians can have values. Can Christians have no values? If a Christian has no values, then the Christian will have to learn his values very quickly, because that's, Christ demands us to follow his ways. And in following his ways, those are the values that have already been ascribed there for us. So we have no choice. So for a Christian not to have values, I don't think that's possible, because you have to submit to the God values that just now I shared with everyone. Yeah? And then going to your first question, which was is there something I wish to do? I pray a lot for my students. I pray a lot for my colleagues, especially the pre-believers. And I pray that they may see God work in their lives, and they may believe, and they may embrace Christ as the Savior. So that's what I pray for all the time. So you could say that would be my wish. And it's not just mine alone, it's also that of many of the prayer warriors that we have working alongside with me.
All right, thank you for that, Prof. Elizabeth. Thank you for all the questions. I think we've come to the end of this segment, so I'm going to invite all of us to, why don't we put our hands together and thank Prof. Elizabeth Lee. Thank you for a wonderful sharing. Thank you for being so candid.